If there is no self, who is responsible for karma? Buddhist wisdom. At the heart of the Buddha's teaching stand two profound truths: Anattā, the principle of no self, and Kamma, the universal law of intentional action. Yet for many, these two pillars seem to give rise to a striking and often troubling paradox. If the Buddha declared so clearly that there is no eternal unchanging self, no fixed I at the center of our being, then a question immediately arises. What is it that acts? And if there is no enduring self, who is it that receives the results of those actions? This question deepens when we consider another puzzle. If there is no permanent self to own or carry karma, how can personal karma remain unique to each individual? Does the teaching of no self remove all sense of moral responsibility? Does it point to a hopeless or even nihilistic view of life? Or rather, could it be that this teaching opens the way to a deeper, more liberating understanding of accountability? It is here that we turn to the ancient scriptures. Read with an open and reflective mind. They reveal a clarity that may not be obvious at first sight. What seems like contradiction begins to dissolve, showing instead a remarkable consistency within the Buddha's wisdom. From these insights, a new perspective on existence and responsibility begins to emerge, one that is both profound and liberating. At first, this may unsettle the ordinary mind, shaking familiar assumptions. But in the end, it offers not confusion, but true clarity, a wisdom that brings freedom and an enduring peace. No self, Anattā, explained. To understand the connection between no self and karma, we must first examine what is meant by self. In the ancient Indian philosophies before the Buddha's time, Atta in Pali, or Atman in Sanskrit, was described as an eternal, unchanging soul, an independent, indestructible essence thought to be the true core of each person. This Atta was imagined as the ultimate controller, the lasting I behind every experience. It was precisely this idea that the Buddha rejected. Translating Atta simply as self or ego in modern languages can be misleading. In everyday speech, self may just mean our shifting sense of identity. But the Atta that the Buddha dismantled was not this ordinary sense of self. It was the metaphysical claim of a fixed, permanent essence with absolute control. So what then is Anattā? It is not a denial of existence, nor does it suggest a void. Instead, it points to a profound truth. Within the five aggregates, form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, there is no permanent, unchanging self that can truly be possessed or commanded. In the Anattā Sutta, the Buddha gave a simple test. If any of these aggregates were truly self, we should be able to control them and say, let it be this way, let it not be this way. Yet we cannot. Thus, we are guided to reflect wisely. This is not mine, this is not I, this is not myself. This test of control exposes the illusion of a fixed self. This also explains why the Buddha remained silent when Vacchagotta asked directly whether a self exists. His silence was not avoidance, but a skillful response to prevent falling into either extreme. Eternalism, the belief in an everlasting soul, or annihilationism, the belief that nothing remains after death. The true issue is not whether such an entity exists or not, but our clinging to the very notion, which sustains suffering. Consider the flame of a candle. The flame is not a fixed thing, it is a process, shifting and changing moment by moment. When that flame lights another candle, the new flame is not identical to the first, yet there is continuity. Nothing like a flame essence passes over, only a causal flow. In the same way, what we call self is a stream of mental and physical processes, unfolding continuously without any unchanging core. In daily life, however, we must still rely on language and convention. We say I, you, my family, because such terms are needed for communication and for ordinary affairs. These are what the Buddha called designations in the world. But at a deeper, ultimate level, insight shows that no solid, permanent I can be found. Both truths have their place. The conventional truth helps us function, while the ultimate truth frees us from clinging. Even the word Anattā is sometimes used in a conventional way, as in the Dhammapada verse, Anattā hi atano natho, oneself is truly one's own refuge. This does not affirm a permanent soul, but points to responsibility and self-reliance in practice. It is a reminder of effort and accountability, not a metaphysical claim. How Kamma truly works. With the understanding that no fixed self truly exists, a natural question arises. How then does Kamma, or intentional action, operate? The Buddha's definition is both precise and profound. Intention, I tell you, is Kamma. Kamma is not simply an outward act. It is the volitional force, the underlying intention that drives the act. This intention works through three channels: the body, physical action; speech, verbal expression; and mind, thoughts and mental states. Every thought, word, and deed carries intention, and it is this intention that determines the Kamma created. Consider the act of giving money to a beggar. One person gives with genuine compassion, wishing only for the beggar's well-being. This compassionate intention leaves a wholesome imprint on the mind stream, shaping its future tendencies. This is wholesome Kamma. Another gives, but with a desire for praise or a sense of superiority. The outward action is the same, but the mixed intention creates a wholesome imprint stained with subtle impurities. A third person refuses to give, moved by disdain or judgment. This unwholesome intention leaves an unwholesome imprint, cultivating tendencies that will manifest later as unwholesome Kamma. In the Pali scriptures, wholesome intentional acts are often called white Kamma, Sita Kamma, while unwholesome acts are called dark Kamma, Kanha Kamma. The decisive factor is not the external appearance of the act, but the inner intention that creates these specific imprints. If there is no eternal soul, how does Kamma operate and accumulate? The scriptures do not describe a physical container or storage unit. Instead, Kamma functions as a dynamic force within the continuous flow of the mind stream itself. Imagine the mind stream as a flowing river. Every intentional act, every thought, word, or deed is like adding a drop of dye into that river. A wholesome intention adds a clear, pure drop. An unwholesome one adds a murky drop. These drops do not vanish. They subtly alter the character of the river. Over time, repeated drops of a certain kind shape its flow, creating tendencies or currents within it. Just as a riverbed is gradually shaped by the water that runs over it, our mind stream is continuously shaped by the Kamma we create. These tendencies are karmic potentials. They are not stored in a particular place, but become inherent dispositions within the ongoing flow of consciousness. They influence our future perceptions, inclinations, and the very conditions we encounter. Like a seed, these potentials lie dormant, not in a container, but as a latent force within the altered mind stream, awaiting the right conditions to sprout and manifest as karmic results. This ceaseless chain of cause and effect carries Kamma forward, ensuring continuity without the need for a permanent self to hold it. To further conceptualize this continuity, both between moments of consciousness and across lifetimes, later Theravada Abhidhamma traditions introduced the concept of Bhavanga Sota, the life continuum mind. This model describes an underlying current of consciousness that carries karmic potentials and bridges the apparent gaps in conscious experience. It is important to understand, however, that this is a later interpretive framework, not an explicit teaching of the early suttas. It is simply one way of describing this continuous, underlying flow. The belief that no self implies no responsibility is a dangerous misunderstanding. The Buddha clearly affirmed moral responsibility, declaring, "Beings are owners of their kamma, heirs of their kamma." This statement, made at the conventional level of truth, emphasizes the weight of our actions, not the existence of an eternal soul. The Buddha illustrated this in his advice to his son Rahula. Intentions should be examined before, during, and after each action. If a wrong action is found, it should be admitted and corrected. This is a model of ethical practice that requires no belief in a permanent self. Kamma, rebirth, and free will. Having explored the nature of no self and kamma, we now turn to how these truths shape our individual lives. Here we examine the interplay of past influences, present choices, and the unique flow of personal responsibility. Our present circumstances, the body we are born with, our natural capacities, our family background, and our social environment, are all conditioned by past kamma. This is what the Buddha called old kamma, the karmic legacy that sets the stage for our current existence. He explained that even our sense faculties, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, are the results of past volitional actions. To give simple examples, being born with good health is a fortunate karmic inheritance, while being born with chronic illness is a more difficult one. Yet this does not mean our lives are predetermined with no room for choice. Old kamma shapes our starting point, but at every moment we have the capacity to choose how we respond. This is new kamma, the intentional actions we create here and now. Free will, in the Buddhist sense, is not an absolute will independent of causes. Rather, it is the ability to be mindful and to direct our intentions and actions within the framework of existing conditions. We inherit the results of old kamma, but we are also the active creators of new kamma. For instance, someone born with a natural gift for music, old kamma, may neglect it out of laziness, creating unwholesome new kamma, or may cultivate it diligently, bringing joy to themselves and others, creating wholesome new kamma. It is equally important to see that not all experiences are caused by past kamma. The Buddha rejected the idea of strict karmic determinism, pointing out that suffering and feelings can also arise from other conditions, imbalances in the body, seasonal changes, accidents, or simple carelessness. This frees us from the error of blaming everything on kamma, and instead encourages us to recognize both our present responsibility and our ongoing potential for change. Moreover, kamma itself is extremely complex. An unwholesome act can sometimes lead to favorable outcomes, and a wholesome act may sometimes bring difficulty due to the countless causes and conditions at play across lives. The Buddha warned against simplistic explanations. A common question naturally follows. If there is no fixed self, how does one person's kamma remain separate from another's? Why does my kamma not mix with yours? The Buddha explained that a being exists wherever craving and clinging are bound up with the five aggregates. This chain of dependent origination, craving, clinging, and becoming, sustains the continuity we conventionally call I. This causal link is what keeps each stream distinct. Picture drawing a line with a pen on your own sheet of paper. The mark appears on your paper, not on someone else's, because there is a direct causal connection between your action and that specific surface. In the same way, the kamma you create will ripen within your own stream of consciousness, not in another's. The strength of this causal link prevents any mixing of kamma between individuals. Finally, this understanding brings us to rebirth. Rebirth is not the transfer of a fixed soul from one body to another. It is the continuity of the mind stream and its karmic energy. Imagine one torch lighting another. The flame on the new torch is not identical to the first, yet it arises directly from it. In the same way, at the death of the body, the stream of karmic energy, the impressions of past volition carried within the mind stream, finds new conditions, a new set of aggregates, form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, through which it continues. Rebirth is therefore not the passage of a permanent entity, but the unfolding of causal continuity. The path beyond Kamma. Our exploration of Anattā and Kamma leads us to the ultimate purpose of the Buddha's teaching. The goal is not merely to accumulate wholesome kamma in hopes of a better rebirth. While such actions may bring fortunate conditions, even the most blissful realms remain within samsara, the endless cycle of birth, aging, and death. Consider the image of a cage. Unwholesome kamma may trap us in an iron cage of suffering and hardship. Wholesome kamma may raise us into a golden cage filled with comfort, joy, and longevity. Yet, however beautiful, it is still a cage. The true aim is not a better cage, but complete freedom, to transcend all confinement and break free from the entire cycle of rebirth. In this light, human existence is especially precious. It offers a rare balance between extremes, the intense suffering of lower realms and the intoxicating pleasure of heavenly realms. Both extremes obstruct practice, one through constant pain and distraction, the other through complacency and lack of urgency. The human state provides the ideal conditions for awakening. The Buddha did not teach us to stop acting, for as long as we live, intentional action cannot be avoided. Instead, he revealed a path of skillful action that leads to the very ending of Kamma. This is the Noble Eightfold Path: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. The path is described as Kamma that is neither dark nor bright, bringing neither dark nor bright result, leading to the ending of Kamma. The roots of truly wholesome Kamma are not simply good intentions, which may still be tainted by attachment. They are the complete absence of greed, non-attachment, the absence of hatred, loving kindness, and the absence of delusion, wisdom. The three wholesome roots. The Eightfold Path is the cultivation of these roots. It is the training that uses wisdom to transform the very forces that create Kamma, gradually extinguishing the fires of craving, aversion, and ignorance. It is the practice of drying up the stream of intentions that perpetuate suffering. When these three fires are fully extinguished, the illusion of a fixed self dissolves entirely. At that moment, no new intentions arise to generate Kamma, and no further rebirth follows. This is Nirvana. It is not annihilation, but liberation, the complete freedom from suffering, attachment, and all conditioned limits. It is awakening itself, the direct realization of unconditioned reality. It is the state of pure action without an actor, where the division between subject and object, self and other, disappears into seamless clarity. Picture a mirror covered with dust. Our mind stream, obscured by greed, hatred, delusion, and the illusion of self, is like that mirror. When the dust is carefully wiped away, the mirror does not vanish. It shines with natural clarity, reflecting reality just as it is. Nirvana is this state of complete clarity, when the mind is free from distortion and reveals the unconditioned truth that has always been present. Understanding Anattā and Kamma, therefore, does not reduce responsibility. It deepens it immeasurably. We realize that every thought, word, and deed leaves a lasting impression on the stream of existence. As the Buddha taught in the 5 remembrances, I am the owner of my actions, heir to my actions, born of my actions, related through my actions, and have my actions as my refuge. Whatever I do, for good or for evil, to that will I fall heir. This timeless truth reminds us that what we do, say, and think forms the very fabric of who we are, moment by moment, and the legacy we carry forward. May this wisdom inspire a life of mindfulness, compassion, and insight, not only for our own liberation, but for the well-being of all beings. This is not for debate, but an invitation to contemplation and practice, so that each of us may discover the deepest truth within.